Bits and pieces from Grenada. The year was 2014, and I was in the area close to Melville Street, St. George's, Grenada. It was 3:30 in the afternoon, and it was pretty busy. I was careful to walk on the side, and as I did so, I spotted a segment of what was our Miami Beach many years ago. Yes, we had a nice beach near Melville Street in St. George's, Grenada, years ago. We also had a big tree that bore a berry, sort of a berry, on the esplanade. Who remembers that? Now, as I looked at the waves, I noticed how the waves brushed the black rocks at the water's edge. And as they did so, the water became frosty white. Bob Marley's song, One Love, came loud and clear from a little shop nearby. I knew where I was heading. Now, each time I visited Grenada, I have done so many times. After all, that's the place of my birth. I make new friends. A man who sold fruits opposite to the spot where Frenchie's store once stood. Who remembers Frenchie's store? The man was so nice and kind to me that I visited him often to buy the fruits that he sold. He told me of a woman who sold coconut on the carnage. So I went there to buy coconut water, of course. The human spirit clings to those who are genuine and kind. And the gentleman left the sauce up for me. Told me that people had asked him for soursop, but he forgot he had a box with some, so he told them no. So I was fortunate to get one. He told me I was a blessed person. I was blessed. And I was thankful to hear that. The sun was stingingly hot, so I decided to cool out with a simos at the Nutmeg Bar and Restaurant on the Carnage. I sat there and remembered the wonderful dinner my brother and sister-in-law had prepared for me the night before. I did not feel like eating at Nutmeg because I had devoured a big bowl of green pea soup less than 2 hours before. But the simos was enjoyable. I want to say something about organic food. I had oranges straight from a tree. A family member gave me a big fish also, straight from his boat. I had a callaloo soup made from freshly picked callaloo leaves. I had a bunch of organic fruits, and I wondered how I'll be able to devour them before I leave the island. But I will eat them because I did not want to waste my time and carry them and lose them at the U.S. Customs, especially if I'm passing through Miami. I remembered a few months before I was at a health food store in Manhattan, and I saw packaged pumpkin seeds selling for $15, and people were throwing away pumpkin seeds in Grenada. I saw fruit spoiling on the ground, and somehow, I think, good use could be made of those fruits that was spoiling on the ground all over the island. As I said before, this piece is about bits and pieces. So now to bush tea. Like many of you reading this, I grew up on bush tea. I drank bush with local names as Man Better Man, Christmas Bush, Silver Peak, Jump Up and Kiss Me, and many other names, Black Sage. And yes, there was a special bush for every ailment. All you had to tell grandma, the belly hurting you. And she went into the backyard or somewhere and came with a bush to help you get better. I visited relatives in Manjaloo and I was offered lemongrass. Some people call it fever grass. I could not refuse the offer. I even took a few plants to put in the soil near the house where I lived. I was told not to boil it. All I had to do was to boil the water and to draw it. That's a term that was used, to draw it. Same thing they said with soursop leaves. You draw it, you don't boil it. Now the bush tea added a little spice to my spice stay in the Spice Island. Too much spice for you? And while I'm on that kind of talk, let me say, boy, there was peas like peas in Grenada. A bush called moringa. I found to be popular there. People told me that it was good for all kinds of ailment. All kinds. My trip to the beach we called BBC Beach. But back then we said Blanco Beach. You never know who will bounce up on the beach, eh? I met my good friend, Man on the Run, there. He was with a church group that seized the opportunity afforded them to have a nice time on the beach. I chatted with him, and we called memorable events and people. His brother Abuso had died a few years ago in a vehicle accident. Well, the last time I met Abuso in Grenada, he had brought me a few young breadfruit, which I could not use. But it was the thought that counted. Always the thought that counts. My friend Junior the Visigot, well, he left a few young mangoes in a shop in Grenada for me. The owner of the shop told him the mangoes were too young. They were not ripe. And Junior, the Visigot, his reply was, I give Wendell a mango, man. He eating any damn thing. Again, the thought that counts. There was one worrying aspect of the beach visit. I saw too many young boys and girls drinking hard liquor, drinking beers. And if they continue that, they could look out for the medical problems that they will have in the years to come. Seasoned drinkers often have a difficult time handling hard liquor. For those youngsters I saw were well on their way to becoming seasoned drunkards. Sorry to say that. A more pleasant sight, however, was witnessing the people toting pots, carrying appetizing foods that were specially prepared for the Independence holiday. Boy, oil long was everywhere, speaking of boil down, I had a nicely decorated plate waiting for me in the refrigerator. And I'm determined, I was, of course, to have it before I boarded the plane to go back to the United States. Now, Grenada is indeed a wonderful place. I switch to the present tense because Grenada will always be a wonderful place. When I visit Grenada, it is like a spiritual baptism. My spirit is always renewed, a spiritual awakening for me. There are people who will read this and know exactly what I'm referring to. I remember listening to the Anglican church clock striking the hour of 7 and the cocks in the neighborhood crowing in the morning. I remember that well. And that guy who saw me in the market and said to me, Wendell, people just come to Grenada and I recognize them, but I don't call them. But I have to hail you, boy. I have to hail you. Because it's a culture, man. And you're down to earth. Those words were music to my ears. As Mr. Marisho, old Mr. Marisho used to say, God bless. Anthony Wendell the Riggs.